Special guest, Auburn head coach Bruce Pearl. Bruce, what's going on, man? We appreciate you coming down here. We're about 40 steps below normal floor.
Hence
doing,
40
man?
below.
Hence 40 below. How you doing, man? You
I
good?
like it, man. This is a cool spot. It's great to be with you guys after an incredible regular season and an unbelievable March Madness.
Yeah, it's been crazy. I mean, it's been crazy. The big thing obviously is the flip from a year ago, right? I mean, 4 blue bloods to now 1 blue blood, and some people want to argue. Don't argue with Dauster whether UConn's a blue blood or not. He'll come at your throat. All right, he will come at your throat.
I take that on.
Yeah, they're blue blood.
They're a blue blood.
They're blue blood.
It's UConn.
No, he
they
agrees.
Expect to win. And Miami is from the ACC. Somebody tried to say to me Miami's a Cinderella team. Are you kidding me?
No.
They're from the ACC. They got the highest NIL in the country. They're not.
Hey.
That's a compliment.
You're in the
That's a compliment.
That's a compliment.
It's a
That's a
compliment.
compliment.
I agree.
There's nothing wrong with being. They were out in front. They were aggressive. Good for them.
Right, I was going to ask you, if you had the biggest NIL, Bruce,
Yep.
would you flaunt it? Hey, we got. I mean, how do you handle that right now? Because we don't know. Like, some kids are saying, hey, they're inflating their own NIL. Some coaches kind of want it out there secretly. Other coaches, no, we're not paying that NIL. How do you handle this whole thing?
Well, I think first of all, it's a good thing that the kids are finally getting a realistic scholarship and they're able to compensate. The NCAA was arrogant and ignorant for waiting as long as they did to fix the discrepancy between what coaches and universities and everybody else. And so I'm glad it's happening. I don't want my kids to work at a Subway. I want them to own 3 of them, and I got a chance to maybe do that, with this post NIL. I guess I say that out of compliment to Miami. If Miami was ahead of the game and able to, people were able to donate money to pay the athletes.
Can't you get Barkley to do this? I mean, John Ruiz. Barkley's making how much money?
You know what?
Hey, Chuck,
at some point,
Chuck,
yes.
let's go. I mean, Chuck, wherever you are. I'm looking the wrong camera. By the way, Chuck is the best. I haven't even seen him down here yet.
Well, you couldn't see him because he's lost 100 pounds.
No, he hasn't.
Oh, he's 50, 60. He looks great. Yeah, he does. He's lost
He's
it.
not dripping anymore?
No, he's not soaking wet like me.
Really?
Yeah.
You're
Yep.
okay.
The NIL is, don't worry about whether it's sustainable. They got to figure some things out. It's a little crazy in recruiting. One of the best things that I did, Matt, when I got the NIL thing came in, we only had in recruiting, maybe one of my players was a spring signing. But we did put the rest of the kids on an NIL and didn't have to.
Smart.
I just think it was the right thing to do. It wasn't huge, but it was something, and then they all began to work on it a little bit more. And I have more issues with the transfer stuff than I do the NIL stuff. The transfer stuff is it's really hard because it's just so hard to
You just
build
lost. How many guys have you lost? A couple already.
I lost a couple of freshmen that are they might come back, but I don't think so. But they're talented. They're going to be really good. Right. And in some ways, by not playing them when they were younger, you almost protect them. Because like you're not ready yet.
Johan's one of them, right? I mean, talented,
going to be really good.
But you couldn't play him this year enough because he wasn't ready. I mean, people say this all the time. Like, if they're good enough to help you win, you're gonna play them. Period.
Absolutely. It's like, and people ask all the time, is it the kids? Have the kids changed? That's, what? No, the kids really are.
People around the kids, yes.
People around the kids.
The mentors.
People around the kids. So bottom line,
coaches.
parents, listen up. Your kid's not batting fourth. You know why he's not batting fourth? Because he can't hit. He can't hit a curveball, and he won't stay off the high ones. Okay, so you know what you do? You know what you do now, parents? You go find another all-star team and find some coach that will let him bat fourth. But you know what we used to do, or my father's generation did? We'd get our asses in the batting cages, and we would start hitting until we deserved to be batting fourth. And that's that. How many high schools do they go to? How many AAU programs do they go to? Ridiculous.
It's what's been created, right, Coach?
Yep.
It's unbelievable. But look at your tenure at Auburn. And I was in the league with Coach Donovan, and Auburn basketball wasn't what it is now.
It wasn't what it is. It sucked.
And we scrimmaged Coach Pearl when I was in Chattanooga, and his team was more prepared for a scrimmage than I've ever seen in my entire life. Right?
Yep.
My man Chuck Esther got hurt right in the beginning of that scrimmage. That was a tough deal, but just the excitement you've created, Coach, at Auburn basketball, and like for you and what you did at Tennessee and the teams you had there, how different is it for you now too, dealing with NIL,
Yeah.
transfer portal,
Yeah.
and even with the excitement, you're selling out every game,
Yeah.
and kids aren't happy. So how different is it for you now than even when you were at Tennessee?
A couple things. First of all, the fact that we competed when I was at Florida and Tennessee. And you know what you do in this arena? If you can earn the respect of a worthy opponent, you've accomplished something. So for me as a coach, to get Matt's respect, to get Billy Donovan's respect, Bruce Pearl does a good job with his team. They come prepared or whatever. Man, that's huge. Don't. You can't blow that up enough. And then to go to Auburn, where they hadn't been great. Charles had it going a little bit. Sonny had it going. Coach Ellis had it going a little bit.
Yep.
Back in the day with Chris Porter. But it's been a while.
Been a while.
And we're competitive again. Finding a way. Good players, good coaches, hard work, all that stuff. It's 360 different. The game, it's 360. The business 360 different. For me, it's kind of always been a ministry. We really can affect young kids' lives. In the 4 years they're with us, they come in just like your daughter's going to be a sophomore in Indiana. How much has she grown? How much adversity has she faced as a
people to help
freshman?
her. Yeah.
Needs people to help her. And when she gets out of there, she's going to be a woman that is prepared for the next chapter of her life. But not if not if she's in the transfer portal. Not if she's, and so that's the thing. For me, the coaching has been a ministry. And it's become a little bit too much of a business and kind of every man for himself. And I can't keep my parents happy with playing times and minutes and roles. And I'm almost to the point now where I'm going to recruit kids. I'm actually going to recruit parents. I'm done recruiting parents that have no clue.
Good for you.
And no patience. I'm like, you know what? We're going to go over here. Because you're crazy.
Well, you're going to get good players anyway. You're going to get good players. You know that. You built this program into something. Again, I remember when you told me at ESPN that you were taking the Auburn job?
I do.
We're in the radio room. You're in the back radio room, and you're like, I'm taking the Auburn job. I'm like, what?
Listen, he doesn't like,
Auburn?
he's like, well, not the right fit. He's always said, well, I took UMass.
Listen.
Are you kidding me?
Wait.
No.
That's what he loves.
A Jew from Sharon, Massachusetts going down to the South and winning? Like, what the hell happened? How did you do this? Think about it. If I had ever told you that, 25, 30 years ago,
No.
that you'd win at Tennessee and Auburn?
Yeah. So you look at everybody else. You look at football. You look at baseball. You look at golf, tennis. You go, wait a second. Auburn's winning. Women's basketball. Auburn's winning. Auburn has got a winning. They're not very big, but they got respect. It's a good academic school. There's a lot of things going. Beautiful, it's prettiest little village on a plain. There's something, and so you walk into a program that's not been very good, and all of a sudden, then you do it, then it elevates, your status, so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. If they weren't winning in other things, then you don't touch it. You just touch it. Like there are some basketball jobs now that you guys are commenting on now every day. Not a good basketball job. Well, they're not winning at anything else either. That makes it a bad basketball job.
Let me ask you this, Bruce, because when I first started covering the sport, Auburn, like the arena there's nothing. It's not packed. It's not full. You don't have people going crazy. And now I don't know if there's 5 places at the high major level that are as crazy as Auburn Arena is when you guys are rolling, when you guys got a big game going. And I think we kind of see it a little bit with other SEC teams too. I don't know if am I allowed to compliment Alabama here?
Yes, you
are.
are.
Say good things about Alabama?
Yep, you are.
Nate's got that thing rolling too, and that place is rocking when it's good. How did you develop that? How did you grow that? How did you get that fan base that is, frankly, football crazy, right?
Right. Yep.
How did you get them to care about basketball as well?
You know what? I think the fact that we had done it at Tennessee, and so they did come in and they were excited about the hire, thinking that we have a chance now because we've hired somebody that has done it before.
Today's episode of the Field of 68 After Dark is presented by our partners over at Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play college basketball pick'em, where you can win real cash prizes simply by picking player stats in this weekend's Final Four games. And pick'em, all you do is pick whether a player will go higher or lower on Underdog's projected totals, whether it's points or rebounds or assists or all of them combined. If you're like me and you think Adama Sanogo is going to go nuts this weekend, pick higher on his points projection, pick higher on his rebounds projection, maybe throw in a lower on Matt Bradley's scoring totals, a higher on Isaiah Wong, whatever it is that you like. Put them all together, and if you hit them all, then you can win as much as 20 times your money on a single game. Underdog's slick mobile app is easy enough that dummies like Jeff Goodman have even figured out how to use it. So go to UnderdogFantasy.com or download the app and use the code FIELD, that's FIELD, to get a 100% deposit match up to $100.
Coach, who do you like? Who do you like in the tournament? These 4 teams that are here, such different styles, different styles of play.
I love when we ask coaches this question because they're always like, how do I compliment every team? So let's see what you say.
Look, it's hard to not like UConn because they're just dominating the fields.
Right.
And they have everything.
Boca's got some good Jewish delis, you know.
Boca does. They do. Hartford has as well, just outside of stores. If Miami's center can stay out of foul trouble,
Talking about it.
all right, then Miami's got a fighting chance because then all of a sudden, maybe Wong and Pack and those guards can make enough one-on-one plays, and then UConn they are a little young at a few positions and so on and so forth. But I just think they got too many weapons. They got too much size. Sanogo's going to be a monster, on the inside, and I think they're Big East tested. The Big East was a monster this year. I think it may have been the best, most competitive league in the country, and so I like the Huskies.
And it comes down to officiating too, right? I mean, some of these, how is this game getting officiated, Coach?
Here's the other
I
thing.
can say it now. I can comment on the officials because I'm out now.
I don't mind commenting on it. I'm going to get a better whistle because I'm kidding me. You know what? They letting them play, and that's fine. That's fine. They are letting them play. But I think sometimes when you, quote unquote, let them play, is you're not calling fouls that are fouls. They're fouls. Fouls are errors.
Fouls are fouls.
And they're kind of killing it. And I think that's why these teams, some of these teams, like that defend and are physical defending, have been out of foul. They're in foul trouble during the regular season. In the NCAA tournament, the guys are kind of managing the game, letting the kids play. I get it.
All right, last thing. You guys were not a top 25 team this year.
Here we go.
We weren't. We weren't. No, we weren't.
I just wanted
to our Auburn fans.
Great interview.
Listen, to our Auburn
all.
fans. Jeff and I are friends. We've
validated
known each other a long time. Part of the reason we're trying to lower expectations for me a little bit, because when you lose 2 pros, how about Walker Kessler being
he's been
third
awesome.
and voting for NBA Rookie of the Year?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. He was the best player in the year that I've ever coached. He was a national look, it wasn't like we weren't number 1 in the country for 6 weeks.
Right.
And it wasn't like he wasn't the National Defensive Player of the Year.
2 NBA
And it's not like he wasn't a first-team All-American. He was, and yet so many teams passed on him. And Jabari's got off to a slow start, but lived up to being the third. Those kids are gone. And so we bring in Janai Broom.
At Auburn.
We bring in Janai Broom, who was one of the most impactful transfers that didn't get a lot of talk. Impactful transfers in college basketball. Steven did my son, great job recruiting him. But that said, no, we wind up making the tournament, beating Iowa, get to the final 32.
Good year.
That's about where we should have been.
Yes.
And our job as coaches is to get the team to where they should be. And that team, now, you're up 10 at halftime against Houston, the number 2 seed overall.
Yeah.
And then maybe, and so the answer is maybe we were a little better than you and I both. We were a little better than we both gave us credit for.
I got one more for you, Bruce. We got about 2 minutes before we got to get to break. The SEC, when you first got the job, made a concerted effort to kind of develop the basketball side of it. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
I think what we're seeing right now with the ACC is something similar to what the SEC was when you first got there. What would you advise some of these programs? What would you advise ACC Commissioner John Swofford?
Okay.
What would you? How would you advise him on how to?
He's gone, right? Swofford's gone.
No, what's the name of the guy?
Jim Phillips.
Jim Phillips. There you go. There you go. How would you advise him?
So here's the deal. Back in the day in SEC basketball, it was Kentucky and Billy Donovan. That was that's all it was, Kentucky and Billy. And everybody else was way, way, way down the list. And Mike Slive got it started, and Greg Sankey continued it. Dan Leibovitz continued it. What made the ACC was it was when it was back in the day wasn't just Duke, North Carolina. It was Gary Williams at Maryland. It was Prosser at Wake Forest. It was Bobby Crimmins at Georgia Tech. Right? There was some other guys that had. I apologize, but NC State was the depth and breadth of a conference. So now what's making the SEC what the SEC is is the fact that Arkansas and Alabama and
No doubt.
Tennessee
You're right.
and Auburn
Yep.
are now, and
So
Missouri.
if Kentucky
Texas
has an
A&M,
off year, if Kentucky
Yeah.
has an off year, Florida has an off year, you got other teams.
Right.